Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Archie's Briefings. I'm your host, Arshel Branch, and today, you guys, we are going to be discussing Trump in the battleground states. We're going to be looking at some of the polls that have come out so far from last week. We will see if that means anything, really. We're also going to start looking at some of the accusations about this cheating that's going on. But before I go ahead and get started in that conversation, you guys, you go ahead and take the time to like this video, share this video, hit that notification bell so that way you never miss an episode. So let's go ahead and let's get started in the conversation. There is something that has been on my heart that I did want to discuss. Discipline is a huge part of being productive, being lucrative. I am not for anything that goes against true productivity, true sovereignty of the individual. The choices that we make are what's going to be up for judgment. So before we go ahead and get started, you guys, as I said before, I love my show open. If you are someone who is interested in having your own opening score for your podcast, if you are a content creator like myself, or if you're, someone who wants to write their own music, but you're more good with the lyrics than you are the music itself, look no further than Matthew Torrance at scoresomemusic.com. I think he's fantastic. I think you will think he's fantastic if you are looking to have music styled to what you like and what you think your audience or viewers are going to like. Go ahead and reach out to him. I think he's incredible, and I think you will too. Let's go ahead and let's get into this episode, guys. Okay, so as I said in the open, we are going to be looking at some of the conversation that's surrounding particularly the battleground states. I, as a Pennsylvania citizen, am very interested to see what's going on in there. I've had conversations with some people. I think I've convinced some not to vote as it relates to voting for Kamala Harris. I had a conversation with an individual in my family, and they said they don't like the candidates. They don't like either one of them. They think Kamala Harris is a old hoe and goofball. Their words, not mine. And they think Trump is a racist. Can't convince them otherwise. I said this in previous episodes. I just don't think I'm going to be able to convince people who have never liked this man to like him. But Kamala Harris has done a pretty bad job of promoting herself that they don't want to vote for her either. I've spoken to someone who is 50 years old who said this. I've spoken to a Gen Zer who is 19 years old and very much similar to who I was in 2016. I don't like either of the candidates. I don't like her. I don't like him. Therefore, I'm not going to vote. Now, we shall see if they stay true to that. I'm hoping that is the case. I've seen some people in the comment section say that they don't like the idea of people not voting. But here's the thing. If I can take votes away from Kamala Harris, then that is a win for Team Trump and Team America first. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go with that. But of course, we do have to pay attention to the fact that it's looking as if that they are tied in some of the polls, and it's looking as if that the cheating has already gotten started. So before I go ahead and give you what I think about whether or not the polls really matter, I'm going to start off by showing you guys a post that President Trump actually posted on YouTube. It could be President Trump. It just says Donald J. Trump. So it could be him, or it could be someone who's just posting, saying these things. So, take this with a grain of salt. But I am inclined to believe this. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to show you that post right now because I thought it was incredible. Okay, you guys, so you can read this, right? It says Donald J. Trump, 18 hours ago. This is obviously a few hours past that. So here's the thing. This is what it says. An interview by Tucker Carlson of an election expert indicates that 20% of the mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania, it's my state, are fraudulent. Here we go again. Where is the U.S. Attorney General and the FBI to investigate? Where is the Pennsylvania Republican Party? We will win Pennsylvania by a lot unless the Dems are allowed to cheat. The RNC must activate now. Now, here's the thing about it. We know that Lara Trump is the one who is running the RNC. Very happy about that because I do think that she's going to do everything that she possibly can. We know that they are trying to stop the mail-in ballots, which I 100% support because I feel like mail-in ballots are unconstitutional in every single way. And I don't think I'm crazy for saying that. And some of you guys were in this conversation with me in the comment sections and in previous episodes. We already know that the mail-in ballots are problematic, but we are going to play this game because it's allowed, and we have to try to beat the Dems at any avenue that we can find to beat them in. We need to be able to do that. So that's a good thing if she's going to go ahead and make that happen. Now they're trying to stop it from happening, but if they can't, we have to engage that way. Already they're finding cheating going on, mail-in ballots. I wonder if Megyn Kelly's going to come out and say, oh, there's not enough cheating to sway the course of the election outcome. But 20% is a big deal because if this is a tight race, so far the polls are saying that they are tied in Pennsylvania. And this is from both sides, or we're talking from the left and the right. Everyone is suggesting that they are tied in Pennsylvania. And I am going to show you some of those polls as well today and some of the videos that do prove that they are tied. And I'm inclined to believe that because both are saying that they're tied. Although with some of the things going on as relates to illegals, we do have to account for that as well. So here's the thing. If the cheating has already begun and it's in a battleground state and they're saying that they're tight, then this is a chance for the Democrats to cheat, which is why he has to win in a landslide, because it's not okay if 20% of the mail-in ballots, and it's only September, folks, it's only September. This post came out yesterday, early this morning. This doesn't make any sense that this is even allowed yet again. Now we got our eye on it. I'm keeping my eye on it as well, of course, because I live in a battleground state. So I'm very concerned about what's going to happen with that. So what does that really mean, though, if we're going to do anything about it? And yeah, where are the the Republicans on this? Where are the state's Republicans? I'm just a commentator and a voter. So all I can do is try to get as many people in Pennsylvania informed about what's actually going on, why it's so important that they get their vote in, if they're going to vote the right way. If they're not interested in any of the candidates, why you shouldn't vote at all. And if you find out that your name has been used, then hello, then I'm not making this up, because they thought we were making this up in 2020. But if you know you didn't vote, but your name is in there, then you know something's going on. There is some funny business going on, and you would actually have a reason to be outraged. And it can't be because of President Trump, because your vote's going to be used, obviously, for Kamala Harris. And we know this as conservatives, as America First. We obviously know this. Now, we do have to talk about the fact that we also know, now on top of the mail-in ballots having problems, we also have to talk about the fact that we know that there are non-citizens, illegals, freaking illegals, voting in our elections. And this is obviously a problem. I don't understand why we need to have amendments added to the Constitution to say only American citizens should be voting in the United States. But like I said, as it's something that my twin sister says, and I completely agree with her, redundancy is for the stupid and for the corrupt. There is no way that you can get around letting illegals vote if we amend the Constitution. Now, you look at the Secretary of State of Georgia specifically, which is yet another battleground state where the election race is close, where illegals being allowed to vote would hurt the outcome of this election. They were able to take some action to prevent illegals from voting, and they did have an uphill battle to allow this bill to go through. And I'm going to play you guys that clip of the Secretary of State coming out and speaking on behalf of the voters. So I'm going to run that clip so we can discuss that circumstance, shall we? Okay, so as you see, it says that the Secretary of State of Georgia, Raffensperger is his name. I don't know his first name, but Secretary of State Raffensperger, he did a press conference. This was a few days ago. This was about 5 days ago. And I find this very fascinating simply because, they won. They won. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to play this clip so you can see him in his own words actually talk about what's going on here. Let's go ahead and let's play this clip, shall we?
And yet we've been sued already in Georgia by two groups. Stacey Abrams' group, Fair Fight. Fair Fight Action sued us in federal court. We met them and we beat them in a court of law. Then we were sued by the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. So same thing, and they wanted to stop us from doing citizenship verification. We met them in a court of law and we did prevail. We think that sets great legal precedent for anyone in the country that wants to do citizenship verification the way Georgia does. We think it makes sure that only American citizens are on the voter rolls. So only American citizens are voting in our elections.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there because really, I think that's all that needed to be said about that. So, yeah. I love that Georgia took action. I love that they took the time to really make sure that only Americans are voting in these elections, because let's call a spade. The fact that we even had to do that at all. I mean, the fact that it was such a fight to make sure that only Americans are voting. This should tell you the priorities of what's going on with the Democrats. This should tell you exactly what they're thinking. Should tell you that they do not care about the American voter. They don't care about American people, because all they care about is their agenda. If they knew that their agenda would actually get the people excited and invigorated with truth, then they would have no reason to let illegals vote, because they know that their policies would actually benefit the people. And they know that we're not buying it. They know that we are not believing them when they say that their ideas are going to be the best interest of the American people. They know that. They know that we don't trust them. They know that we do not like Kamala Harris, and the support is going towards Trump that it is going towards Kamala. When you talk about Black Americans specifically, when you talk about young men specifically, more young men are leaning towards Republicans as young women are leaning towards the left, which is not surprising. Young women are more, I would say, more selfish than Young men are thinking about providing and protecting, where young women are thinking about murdering their babies so they can have the lives that they want, which they it's not like it's going to go away even if Trump gets into office. I tried to explain that to the people I had a conversation with yesterday. Oh, he's so he's pro-life, he's pro-life. Actually, no, he's pro-choice, and the pro-lifers are so upset that some of them don't even want to vote for him anymore. But I'm still going to vote for him because there are other things that I know we can get done as conservatives, as America First, and there are some things that we're going to have to do without his support as long as he's not in the way. And I do think that the pro-life movement is going to have to start focusing on the state by state level, not so much on the federal level. Now, to continue with the conversation of what's going on with the cheating and allowing of the illegals to play a role in our elections, this does have some sway, I think, on the polls. When they say that this is a tight race, I mean, are you asking illegals how many of them actually play a role in here? I'm not entirely sure about that. And I'm going to get into whether or not I think this even matters moving down the line of this episode. But I am going to show you guys a couple of the polls that have been shown by a couple of the independent media as well as the mainstream media on both sides, both on the conservative side and on the left as well, just so you have a full rounded view the way I have on what's going on with the polls. So let's go ahead and let's start with that, shall we? So as you guys can see here, what she has here is, this is Trish Reagan's poll, by the way. Well, not her poll, but she covered this on her show. This is a poll done by Nate Silver. She covered it on her show, and I completely trust Trish Reagan. Here's the thing: she got fired from Fox for saying the truth. COVID shutdowns would be used to manipulate the election, to steal an election. She got fired for saying it, and she was absolutely right. And so with Nate Silver's prediction, this was of September 5th. Okay, so this was not that long ago. This was literally last week. So on September 5th, he came up with a poll, 60.1% to Harris 39.7%. That was on September 5th. 1 day later, this same pollster comes out with yet another one. So let's go ahead and let's look at the other one, shall we? Because this is amazing. So the right one. Here we go. Now, this is the Nate Silver prediction for September 6th. Again, this was the very next day, and he's up yet again, 61.5 to her 38.3. Now, this is incredible because it shows that he is way ahead in the numbers. If you're looking at Nate Silver's polls, he's saying that Trump is kicking her butt. And this is everything prior to the debate, right? The last time this man debated, he ended a president, okay? And they had to throw in somebody else, which is why we have Kamala Harris today. If these are the numbers that we're looking at, then he wins. If there's no cheating, of course, that's what that would mean. There's no cheating. Now, one of the leftist media are some of the other things that we do have to consider here, because if at the end of the day, these numbers are suggesting that he wins in a landslide. And again, in the post that I showed you guys of Donald Trump's on YouTube, his YouTube post said that they would win Pennsylvania by a lot if the Democrats are not allowed to cheat. Personally, I don't care if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning is winning. But just because we know that they like to cheat off those small little margins is pretty much why we kind of make sure that he slaughters. And I really want that to be the case. I really want those numbers from the polls that Trish Reagan showed to be true. I'm hoping that they are. She said in her episode that he pulled these numbers not from pulling from other polls, right? But that he looked at the numbers similarly to how a financial advisor will pull from somebody's budget, right? To say how much you should invest, this, and the third. I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I like how he's pulling his information. I will link that video of Trish Reagan in this so that way you can understand how this gentleman got the numbers that I've shown you just now and some of the other ones I'm going to show you as well. At the end of the day, I think that if those are the numbers before a debate, after a debate, he should slaughter. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you some of the other information that came from that particular episode just so you can see why I'm hopeful about what's going to happen with this election. Okay, so what you guys are seeing here is an explanation of how those numbers came to be, really just in the line graph. That when you see, the blue obviously represents Kamala Harris and the red represents Donald Trump, that when she first announced that she was running, she was at the bottom. She went up a bit in numbers. He went down a bit in numbers. And somehow they managed to make this large V. It starts off as a large V and it ends in a large V. So large V here, large V here. So he starts off on top and so far is looking like he's maintaining on top. Now we just got to make sure he wins on top. That's what these numbers look like so far there. And so again, this got the same poll that she showed, the Nate Silver's poll. Everything is showing on those polls that he's doing incredibly well. And so I'm really excited if those are the numbers that we can just maintain there. This is not the case with every single one of the polls that we're seeing. I mean, some of the leftist ones are saying that he's winning as well. So, I mean, look at this one, right? I mean, this was from News Nation. This was a poll from that was done, I believe it was yesterday or possibly on Friday, this passing Friday that just happened. Choice for president from September 3rd to September 6th. You can see these dates here. It says that he's up by one compared to Kamala Harris at 47%. He's 48%. So, again, tight. But so far, from September 3rd to September 6th, it seems likely that Trump is going to win this whole thing. Like, even up by 1%, this is looking like what that's going to be. Now, what does this look like when we're talking about the um, battleground states? This is where this gets interesting. Now, when you look at the polls from, this is ridiculous. When you look at the polls from CBS, I don't know if you guys can see that. Um, you know, this says for Michigan, it's 50% for Kamala, 49% for Trump, 50% Pennsylvania for Kamala, 50% for Trump, 51% in Wisconsin for Kamala, 49%. So clearly in the other two, she is leading by 1 to 2 points, and in Pennsylvania, they are tied. Again, we know that from his comments alone from the YouTube post, if what he's saying is true, which I'm inclined to believe, 20% of the mail in ballots, fraudulent. So is this really a tied race, or are they including the cheating on that? And that does beg the question, just how much of this does it even really matter when you look at these numbers? Now, I'm giving you all these numbers, you guys, because I do want people to understand what's going on with the polls. We do ask, as people who are just supporters of President Trump or supporters, well, more so supporters of the America First agenda, I think we're more critical of Trump now than we were in 2016. I mean, it is dire today, but I think we're more likely to pick up a lot more of the responsibility and not just put everything onto his shoulders, because sometimes we just don't agree with what he does. The pro-life movement being one of those issues that we just don't agree with. But when you look at these numbers, this is clearly showing that, he's not far behind her, and he's tied with her in one of the battleground states, which is one of the largest swing states, and that is Pennsylvania. That's the state that I am in. So far, I've convinced a few people to not vote for Kamala Harris. I think that's a win. Even if you're not going to vote, I know you're not voting for Kamala. And that's really my biggest thing there. If you're not going to vote for Trump, just don't vote at all. And I've convinced some people to do that. Now, some people are going to disagree with me, but listen, I think taking votes away from Kamala is a win for America First, because there's no way that if we can convince more people not to vote for her, I tried to do the same thing in 2020. I tried to convince many people not to vote for Joe Biden. But I think where my hiccup is that I tried to convince them to vote for Donald Trump. And I think that only irritated them even more and galvanized them even more to go out there and vote for Joe Biden. Now, we know what happened on 2020, but I know my family members voted for Joe Biden. This time around, I know some of my family members are just not going to vote for Kamala, and I know some are going to vote for Kamala. But hey, if I take in some votes from this broad, then I'm more than okay with that. But don't just take my word for it. These numbers are showing that they are tied and that Trump is leading in some of the other cases. This is where the back and forth comes in. So I'm going to play you guys a video of someone explaining what is actually going on. This wasn't that long ago. This video actually came out. And so I am kind of interested and concerned about just how true this is. I mean, that's much concern. I'm hoping that it's real, because to be frank, I think that there is something to that. So let's go ahead and let's play that other clip, shall we? Okay, so here we go, you guys. This is the clip, the short that I found. This is from the First Post America YouTube channel. And so we're just, let's go ahead and let's run it so we can see. Now, at the bottom here, it says Kamala Harris raises $300 million in August. So, Donald Harris, this is the whole point here. Harris is leading in funds where Trump is leading in the polls. Let's go ahead and let's play that, shall we?
Vice President Kamala Harris and her campaign have raised a whopping $300 million just in the month of August. Now, this is more than double what former President Donald Trump's campaign raised during the same time. Prominent American investment giant Goldman Sachs has backed Kamala Harris for president. The financial firm said a victory for Kamala Harris would mean a boost for the U.S. economy, while Donald Trump's victory would hurt economic growth owing to his stance.
Okay, so before I let him go on with that, let's just be clear here. We know why Goldman Sachs is backing Kamala. We know why. I've said this a million times on this show. You know how I feel about the financial system. You know how I feel about the history of our economics. Sorry, but when a big financial firm like Goldman Sachs gets involved in politics, it's generally because they're going to back the warmonger. They are the ones who make money off of wars. Of course, they're going to support Kamala Harris. Of course, they're going to. She's a warmonger herself. They make money off of wars. It's just a no-brainer. And the idea that Trump's going to hurt the economy, come on. This isn't that we don't have a record to check. He was the president in 2016 up to 2020. Prior to COVID, we know that the economy was actually doing well. We were able to bring down the debt by a couple of $1 trillion, and people had more money in their pockets because of his tax cuts. I mean, my goodness. I mean, Ann Coulter was not very happy with him simply because he didn't focus on the border. But let's call it spade. I mean, more money was in the pockets of the American people. The deficit was actually going down, which pisses off the Federal Reserve. Because if we prove that we can pay off the debt, then it means that we can eventually take back control over our own lives and then possibly prevent this from ever happening again. Having a smart financial person in office does mean we can do something about the debt. It still may take 10 to 20 years, but hey, 10 to 20 years to get out of enslavement is worth the time. It's worth it, in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and let him finish.
On tariffs on imports from countries like China. While Kamala Harris leads Donald Trump nationally, Trump remains slightly ahead in North Carolina, Arizona.
Look at these. Look at this. Trump is leading in North Carolina. He's leading in Pennsylvania. He's leading in Arizona. And he's leading in Georgia. They are tied. In Nevada, they are tied. In Michigan, Wisconsin. So again, this is what I'm saying about the previous poll. The previous polls that I showed you guys, it shows, even the ones I showed you by Trish Reagan and Nate Silver, right? Nate Silver, CBS, News Nation, those are showing that Kamala and Trump are tied in the polls when it comes to Pennsylvania, that they are tied. Whereas this particular poll, which again, this is a very liberal network here, in my opinion, I think they're liberal. Not so far leftist. Maybe you guys will let me know in the comment section whether or not you think this particular company here is leftist. But what I can say here is that 49 to 48% is a very big deal. Very important. I think that we should pay attention to that. They are tied in other polls where here it shows that he is winning, at least by 1%. Tight races, enough to maneuver and cheat. We know that from 2020. The closest the polls are, the closest the races are, the more likely they are to cheat. Let's go ahead and let's keep it going, shall we?
Arizona and Georgia, perhaps the biggest prize of them all, Pennsylvania still remains up for grabs. Vice President Kamala.
Okay, so we let him finish that. All in all, you guys, this is showing that there's a good chance that Trump could take it home. Some of the polls by Nate Silver show that he's going to win a landslide if there's no cheating. We obviously know just from the clip that I showed you of Stacey Abrams, the press conference of Georgia's Secretary of State Raffensperger going after and protecting the integrity of the vote, making sure that non-citizens don't have the opportunity to vote. That's a big deal. Hopefully we see something from the Republicans in Pennsylvania. We do know, because Trump is running the RNC, that we are going to see some kind of action being taken place here, because let's call a spade. Before, when it was Mitt Romney's niece running things and we did the whole stop the steal, nothing happened. We had all these allegations, and it took, all of this stuff took place in 2020. We know what happened. Sorry. But when the wrong branch of government passes laws, this is true for Pennsylvania, the Supreme Court passed election laws, this is a problem for me, then this entire thing is going to be invalid. So we know that there are problems in these elections. We know. And now we also know, because you guys have been saying it in the comment sections to me for weeks, for a lot of my episodes, that illegals are voting. We know they're voting. We can clearly see the Democrats are trying to make sure that illegals are voting, because they know very well that they do not have it with the American people. They're losing the black vote by a lot. We obviously see that. They're either not voting for Trump or they're not voting at all, but they're certainly not voting for Kamala Harris. You can see that just from what you've been seeing already all over Twitter, all over YouTube. Black men, black women, just not supporting. And this goes beyond that she could be lying about her race, that she slept her way to the top. They don't like the idea that we're coming last. They don't like the idea that the education system is getting all this money and yet kids can't read past grade level. They don't like the idea that we're not getting the platinum plan, which Joe Biden had the opportunity to do. Kamala Harris had the opportunity to do. And hello, she's still the freaking vice president and still nothing. You could just bring forth the platinum plan. This might boost your black vote, but you're not doing that. No, she wants to use her black scent. She wants to talk about making collard greens out of the damn bathtub. I'm over this woman. I'm over Democrats when it comes to people in office. I'm kind of over it. I've taken some votes from her. I intend to keep on doing that. So if you're a Democrat watching this, I think you know the record. I'm tired of people telling me they know her record and yet they're still willing to vote for this woman. It's one thing when you don't know. Something totally different when you do know. Not only is she, to quote Judge Joe Brown, an old hoe, but she is also not trying to help Black Americans. She's lying about her race, which I think is the most offensive form of blackface, in my opinion. And she wants to prioritize illegals over the American citizen. She has no interest in helping Black people. She said this herself, her words, not mine. And she's still the vice president and still could take action to make life better for the American people. And she's not. And she's not. Joe Biden, we know, obviously can't. But she has her mental wits about her. For an attorney woman, where are you? Why are you not passing any kind of an opportunity here? You want to prioritize illegals? You're going to lose the Black vote. You want to hurt the economy? You're going to lose the Black vote and the vote from men in general. They want to provide and protect, and you're making it harder for them to do that. So, you guys let me know in the comment sections. You go ahead and get in there and let me know what you think, whether or not these polls are actually going to matter. I get caught up in the poll game. I love the one from Nate Silver. The one from Nate Silver shows that Trump wins in a landslide. Some of the other ones are saying that he's leading in some of the battleground states, even in Pennsylvania. And even by 1 point, hey, we're still leading. That's what some of the polls are saying. And that was a leftist company, in my opinion. I think they're kind of liberal. So, hey, maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. All we do know is that there's some serious cheating going on. Georgia has taken action to ensure that only American citizens are voting and not illegals. Hopefully other states take action on that. Hopefully Lara Trump, as the head of the RNC, takes action the way that Trump is saying needs to be taken, because let's call it spade. 20% of the vote, mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania are fraudulent. So what are we doing about that? What's happening with the Republicans in Pennsylvania? And hopefully we can actually get something done. So like I said, go ahead and get to the comment sections and you let me know. Do you think the polls matter? Do you think that we have a chance here? And do you think that if the illegals are going to vote, does that even really hurt our chances of taking back our country? Again, let me know. God bless. Have a good day and Kepla.